I'm Brenda. Welcome to my quilt room. Today I'm excited to show you how you can use up some of your leftover quilt scraps and make the basics of a purse, a tote bag. Once you have the basic construction of this down, then the possibilities of what you can do with it are endless. Now, I got this pattern off of the internet from a website called Quilting Digest, and it's a pattern by Moda. And you can go there, we'll put the description below so that you can find this pattern. And so what I'm going to do today, I'm going to walk you through the basic construction of this, and I'll show you two other examples that I've already made. And if you're like me, you probably have piles of these quilt strips left over from your projects. And what I try to do to keep mine a little somewhat in control, I try to cut them down into usable sizes of strips. But the great thing about this pattern is that you can use any of your strips. You can, if your strips aren't long enough, do what I did and sew strips together. So what I'm going to do is just kind of walk you through the pattern and tell you how you can also make one of these. The pattern calls for you to pick out 14 strips that are 1.5 inches wide. Now, if you want to look at this bag that I've started and I'm almost finished with it, some of them are not quite, they're a little wider than 1.5 inches, and that's your preference. I decided to leave this strip a little wider. Some of my strips over here are wider, some are smaller. You can trim them down if you want to. But I decided to just sew together what I had, and then you can make this whatever width you want. What you will do is you will take 14 1.5 inch strips, or whatever the measurement comes out to of the width of the bag that you would like to make. They want them to be a minimum of 21 inches long. So, like I said, if some of your strips are not quite 21 inches long, sew your scraps together so that they're long enough, because this is a scrappy project. Once you have all of your strips sewed together in a row, then you will cut that into two, and that's going to make your front and your back of your bag. Now, this is the first bag that I made when I was doing this project. And as you can see, I decided that since I'm shorter, I wanted this next bag that I made to be not so deep for me to carry. Now, you will pick out an accent fabric for the bottom, and you would need to cut, based on the instructions in this pattern, 2 pieces that are 15 inches by 7. Okay, I chose to just use, these were strips that I already had sewed together from a previous quilt, and I liked the green, and so I left it, and they don't match, but that's okay. And I put those two for the bottom accent of my bag, and I put a different fabric for the accent at the top of the bag. So once you've sewed all of your 14 strips together, and you've cut those into crossways across the middle, pick out your accent fabric. You're going to sew your accent fabric to your top piece of your bag. And once you have those 2 pieces constructed, what you'll need is just some leftover batting. And as you can see inside this bag, I have used leftover batting from other projects, and I actually used a product called heat press to press them together because the pieces weren't actually wide enough, and it works really. It's a great product for using up your leftover batting. So you'll iron, you want to put your batting behind there, and then you can quilt it or you cannot quilt it. You could stitch in the ditch. What I chose to do was I took a ruler and I used my friction pen and I drew the lines from corner to corner. And I drew them on there on my piece. And then I went the other direction and went corner to corner, edge to edge, and marked it. And I took it to the sewing machine, as you can see, and I just quilted it. Now we're going to put a lining in here. And so when you have that done, then you can trim those two pieces. Now in the instructions on the first bag that I made, they put a ribbon across the accent of the bag in the front. And on this one, I decided not to do the ribbon around the front. I just made a scrappy little bow, and I went ahead and sewed that after I constructed the first piece of the bag, and I sewed that to the front of the bag. So you can do the ribbon if you want. It's all preference. And when you go to the website and you look up this pattern, they have a whole selection of pictures of different ways that you can stylize this bag with a ribbon, without a ribbon. Okay, then once you have that done, you will want to sew your front and your back together. Okay, so it's just basic construction of you're going to sew your two pieces together. At this point, the handles and the little tie are not on there. I may want to mention though, before I do this, on the back you noticed I have an extra pocket because I'm a pocket person. I like to have pockets to put things in so that I know exactly where they are. This pocket came off of an old pair of blue jeans, and this is some rick-rack that I picked up in a craft store that they were getting rid of, and I thought that it was bright and cheery and it went with the bag, so I sewed this across the top. If you're going to put anything like that on your bag, on the front or the back, you want to do that first before you sew your front and your back of your bag together. So as you can see, then you have the quilting finished. And now you're going to lay your front and your back of your bag together. And you're going to sew all the way around the outside edge. And then when that is sewed together, you're going to make what is called a gusset. And that is this right here. Now I'm going to show you how to do this, because what this does is this gives the bottom of your bag, it gives it a place to rest and sort of a bottom to stand up on. Okay, so you'll open up your bag and you'll kind of want to just crawl down with your fingers to your bottom seam. And it's just like in quilting, you'll want to look for the bottom seam of the bag. Pull this little pointy edge out, and then what I did from the point, you kind of feel in quilting how you nest your seams. One seam will go up and the other seam will go down. Well, you'll find them and you'll want to nest them. And then at the corner, I measured out 1.5 inches from the corner, and I drew a line across here with my friction pen, and I went to the sewing machine and I sewed it, and then I cut that corner off. Exactly the same thing on the other side. Just feel for that bottom seam. Put one seam up, one seam goes to the right, one seam goes to the left. Fold it out. Measure from your tip about 1.5 inches in. That's depending on how wide of a bottom you want your bag to have. And then sew across and snip those edges, and then you can turn your bag right side back out. And at this point you will have sewn whatever little embellishment you want on the front, whether it's a ribbon, whether it's a bow. If you want a back pocket. Now on another bag that I made, as you can see, I embroidered my initial onto the front of the bag. This wasn't exactly a scrappy bag. I used 2 coordinating fabrics, and then the green ribbon was an accent. But on the back of this bag, I am a pocket person. There were pockets on another purse that I saw on Pinterest that I really liked. So I made myself 2 big pockets to put on the back of my bag. And I put an accent button on there. And this one is nice and slender. It's just the right size for me to have my glasses in. If I'm in a store, I'm out shopping, I can quickly just grab those glasses right out of that pocket. Now the lining. We're going to talk about the lining of the bag. You will cut the lining of your bag from scraps. I just happen to have this brown fabric laying around, and so I thought it was pretty neutral. It would look nice with my bag. And so you'll cut 2 pieces, 2 square pieces. Mine was 13 by 14.5. And I cut those 2 pieces. But in the instructions, they don't tell you to make pockets. Now, I said before, I'm a pocket person. And so I took another piece of this fabric to make a pocket. And I've written on here, cell phone, glasses. This extra pocket can be for whatever. And I simply grabbed my cell phone, I laid it down, and I drew a line with my friction pen so that I would be sure that my cell phone would fit right down in that pocket. And how deep your pockets are is totally up to you. I came down about 1.75 inches from the edge of my lining. So I've got room for my cell phone, my glasses, anything else that I might use. On the other side, I put 3 additional pockets. And again, this is just a scrappy bag. The fabric didn't have to match. But if you're like me, I'm losing my keys all the time. So I will know, I put my keys in this little green pocket, and they will have their own little place in my purse. Whenever I go out, I'll know that's where my keys are. Or you may have a medication bottle that you need to carry. You can carry little things in additional pockets. So sew your pockets onto your lining to the right side of your lining before you want to add it to the purse. So now that the pockets are on both sides, and you've got your 2 squares, or rectangles I should say, then you are going to sew these together exactly like you did the bag. You're going to go down the sides, across the bottom. This is, and I wrote on mine, this is the top of my bag, these are the sides of my bag, and I wrote down here to leave an opening, because this is how you're going to turn your whole bag inside out. And I skipped over, and then I stitched up the other side. Again, I have opened up the lining, matched up the seams at the bottom, drawn my 1.5 inches from the seam line out to the tip of the bag, and now I'm going to cut that off, and it will have the same gusset as the bag. And I didn't do this correctly on my first bag. So There was a tutorial that I watched on how to do that. And what I did, I like to have a paper pattern. And so the best thing to me about having a paper pattern is you can write your own notes on there. And at that point, I wrote on my pattern, rewatch this specific tutorial on how to box the bottom of a bag before you do it. Well, I've watched it a few times, and so now I know how to do it. So as long as you do that, you've always got those instructions. Now, you've got your outside construction is made. You've got your pockets on. You need to make your handles. The pattern calls for a 4-inch strip of fabric. And again, these are scraps. They're left over from other quilts. This happens to be 5 inches. And you'll want to measure the length and see how long of a strap. Do you want it longer? Do you need it shorter? Depending on your particular preference. And then you will use this thick, I like sturdy straps because they're going to take the most abuse. It's a pell-on. You iron it on. I would cut it about half the width of the strap that I'm using, and you will iron that right down the middle of your strap, and then fold and iron your straps, and fold it and press it, and you'll already have your interfacing, your sturdy interfacing in there, and then you'll end up folding it again and press it, and then you'll take it to the sewing machine and you're going to sew the raw edge together. Now, in order to make it look symmetrical, you're also going to sew down the other side, like I have here on this bag. And as you can see, I liked this fabric, but I didn't have enough of it. But I had another piece, and so I was able to piece another scrap in between these two pieces in order to make them long enough for my shoulder strap. And you can see where I've sewed down both edges of the strap so that they look the same. And that's what you're going to want to do, make your straps. I measured in 4 inches from the sides to put my straps on, and you can kind of see how they match up on each side of the bag. The next thing that you need to make is your latch for your button that's going to be on the other side of the bag. This is simply I think it was a 4-inch by a 6.5-inch piece of fabric. And again, they're just scraps that you will fold over and fold over again. And then you will fold it into the middle so that your button has something to rest on. And it makes, if you've made prairie points or anything like that, it's very easy to fold. Place that in the middle of the back of your bag. Stitch these on. And you're ready to go. You're ready to stuff your bag into the lining. So you want the good side of the lining. Let me make sure here. When you turn your bag inside out, you want the right side of your bag, and you're going to slide your lining over the top. Push it down in there. And then line up your seams of the lining with the bag. It'll probably be easier at this point if you pin your specific places, because the seam is going this way. You want one seam going one way and one seam going another way, and pin it. And then pin the other side of the bag. And then put a few more pins in. And you'll stitch a 1/4 inch seam on your sewing machine all the way around the outside. Your sewing machine probably has a removable arm like mine does, so that you can easily slide the bag in so that you can go around in a circle. And then once you have top stitched, once you've stitched that together, you're going to turn the bag through the opening that you've left. Now you can leave it in the bottom, you can make an opening and leave it in the side of the bag, whatever works for you, you can do. Once you have sewed that all the way around the outside, then you are going to top stitch around the edge all the way around the top of the bag. And this will just reinforce your straps. It'll reinforce your loop for your button. And then that's the basic construction of your bag. The last thing that you'll do is take a needle and thread and sew your button or whatever type of attachment that you want as a closure for your bag on, and your bag is finished. I mean, I can see making these for kids. Maybe this will be a special bag that they carry only to grandma's house, or they take it to the library. I mean, anything. It's a great way to use up a lot of your leftover quilt scraps, which is really good fabric that kind of has no other use. And you can make it useful and make these as gifts. This would be a really nice gift to give to someone who just needs a little bag to carry. Maybe you want something to carry your Bible or a study book or something in. You know, this would be a great gift for somebody. So I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. And if you like my videos, that you'll give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you.